seated on the ground. Matter of fact, I guess I have a chair somewhere. Maybe I can go grab my chair. That'll make more sense for sitting on the ground now, which I don't mind, but I just realized, y'all, when the light comes on, my head's gonna be down here, at least on YouTube. I'm sorry, you guys, today is becoming all of a sudden the rough. Having a rough go of it all of a sudden. Trying to find my stuff. I can't get inside my own bag. I guess because it's dark, I can't see. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Here we go. I was looking for my Bible. We got that. My greatness. I cannot see. At least we have a signal, I guess. Y'all can see me and hear me on the platforms. I don't know what's going on. Missing a bunch of stuff. Shalom. Yes, you can. Okay, cool. My greatness. I'm gonna get it together, y'all, I promise. We were doing so well time-wise and stuff, and then we started dealing with these signal issues, and now. All right. If you don't mind, well, I guess whether you mind, I'm gonna try and see. I got a chair with me. So I'm gonna go grab the chair so I can sit, and then that way we can have better. When the light comes on, I won't be sitting on the ground, and you guys won't just be seeing the top of my head, which I don't mind, but it's probably not the greatest thing for y'all to look at. You can probably find a bunch of other things that you'd rather look at besides that. All right. And thank you for your patience today. I'm literally just walking to get a chair. I'll be right back. All right. Excuse me. Excuse my tardiness. I think we're ready to go. Missing quite a few items, but it is what it is. Had to move. So, sorry for the reset. We were on time for early Rise Bible study session, and we had to reset for this, so I'm trying to figure everything out now on the fly a little bit. But thank you for being on. I'm gonna have to probably hold TikTok in my hand. Sorry, I don't have my stand available. But today, thank you for your patience. Thank you for being on. Thank you for waiting. Hopefully, I don't know if there's animal sounds out here or not, but maybe you heard some that sounded nice. but able to get a much better connection. So I apologize. Can you guys hear and see me one more time? I'm sorry. Can everybody hear and see me okay? I know we're almost 30 minutes behind. Yes? Okay. All right, cool. Thank you for being on. Thank you for your patience. I just had to find some stuff to gather together. Alrighty. But appreciate love you all. Thank you for being on. Thank you for spending some time with us. Hopefully you'll be able to see my face in just a little bit. Prayerfully so. But we appreciate you. We appreciate love you. We hope that all is well with you. We hope that we are thankful and grateful to have another opportunity to be with you. Let's go ahead. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of mine heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our Redeemer, and it is in His name, which is His authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect today's message. Aman. Hola, mi nombre es Kofi. ¿Cómo está? Bonjour, c'est moi Kofi. Ça va? Ni hao, namaste. Osaya nikitamoya. Ohio, I see you. Manut, Wagwan, Kamsa, Kamsamida, Aloha, Ciao, Ensemble. Habarigani, Akwaba, Madaase, Etese, Jambo, Mimini Kofi, Ninafra Kukutana Wewe, Boker To, Boker Tav, greetings, Grand Rising, top of the rising to you, Barakala Chami Haba, Anai Kofan, Khalid Service of Christ, Tada, Maisha Pachi, at Yahada Sham, Shalom, everybody. I am Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time, being the voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. We appreciate everybody's presence. We give our honor and praise to the Most High, Yahweh Elohim. We give our praise and honor to Him, to my wife, the Honorable Amma, who is on, who lives a life that's able to be honored. As always, you can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A-N-D, the letter N. Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. Thank you for those who support what she does to help the health of our community as well. Prayerfully, the tinctures are working for those of you who just received some, those of you who are using some in your healing. And we're thankful and grateful for the gift that she has, not only for that, but what she does for the children and everything she does behind the scenes to keep not only SOC afloat, but to keep this joker right here afloat. So thank you, babe, for being on. Love you very much. To Lottie, Diane, everybody, to the moderators, ministerial staff, SOC, secretary, etc. We're thankful and grateful. We're thankful that we've seen that most of you have been getting to your places and your destinations safely. Those of you who made it back to your abodes, those of you who went to the Grand Canyon yesterday. Seems like everybody seems to be safe. We're praying for safe traveling mercies. Continue to keep us in prayer as we're traveling as well. We're thankful and grateful and appreciative of each and every one of you. Alrighty, but we're gonna go ahead and try and get into this word. I can barely see it. I'm trying to make sure that we're starting in the right place. Okay, I might have, I gave you guys the wrong chapter on YouTube. I think it says Genesis 18. Okay, yeah. But I don't know, yeah, okay. Yeah, I think I said Genesis 18. We're supposed to be starting at Genesis 19, excuse me. So if you can turn in your Bibles to Barashayat Yao Tet, Aleph, or Genesis chapter 19, we're going to start at verse 1. I know we've been out of the Barashayat series for a little bit due to Passover and Q&A, so we're back in it. How you doing? And let me say shalom to everybody. Peace, peace again. Thank you for your patience as I was trying to get stuff together. So how you doing, Sister Barbara, Minister Tracy, Sister Knight, Beck, Michelle, Money Green, let's see, Judith, once again, the Honorable Amma. How you doing, babe? Thanks for being on. Brother Lamar, Rahanj, praise God, Darius, Jennifer. Yeah, the silhouette when we started, yeah, I guess it was cool looking. Or scary looking, the bit of those was coming on. Like, is that spider on? I appreciate the compliment. I need to stop being so self-deprecating. How you doing, y'all? Or my, well, MF, my FY. I don't want to call a man that, but I hope you get the context. No offense. How you doing, G? Everybody come on in. Double OG, triple OG. Brother Rodney. Big Brother Thomas, Darius, if I didn't say so, Ali, Bold Classic, Orlando, user 55992400, etc. Melody, Lily, Carol, Joseph, Sean, Tub People, TUB, Chris Munoz, Abby, everybody, Evangelical, Motive Dan, Jack Simpson, Brother Ali, Brother Ali on here, our Ali that we're used to. How you doing, sir? Rose, Paulie, Gio, and if I missed your name, charge it to my head, not to my heart. We appreciate Lottie Dottie and everybody. Alrighty, how you doing, Brother Jermaine? Okay, so we're gonna start at Genesis chapter 19 and verse 1. Once again, once you have it, say amen, say I got it, say I'm with you, say I'm listening. And we'll get ready to do our Bible pledge and jump right in. Matter of fact, before we start, I'm gonna open my water up. Make sure that my voice stays. I guess it is a great thing that we did move, because where I was, I know my voice was probably carrying it anyways, but I was trying to keep it down because we were around everybody else. So here we got some more freedom to make a little more sound, make a little more noise. Praise y'all. Actually, so get ready to say our Bible pledge real quick. And once again, thank you everybody for your patience. Sorry for my tardiness. I will get this in order. I need to make sure I'm more order for y'all. I apologize. I've been telling everybody else, be on time, be on time, be on time, be within your time and all that, and I'm not on time. That's not great leadership. I will be better. Barashayat, Genesis chapter 19, verse 1. We'll say our Bible pledge first, and then we'll get started. You can just repeat after me. This is my Bible. This is my sword. And this will I trust. For Yahashua is Lord. No sword of God shall ever be heard. For this is my Bible, and this is Yah's word. Hashem Yahweh, Amen. Which is in Yahweh's name, His Shem, His authority. Amen. Alrighty, so if you all can, by the way, feel free to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification tab so that you know when we're coming on. If you like what's going on, thank you in advance for any donations, any 5 to 10 stuff, anything that has to do with the community. Thank you for those things that you do behind the scenes. Also, too, if you don't mind sharing this with other brothers and sisters, or sharing it with family or somebody that you think would find what we're talking about important or interesting in some kind of way, feel free to share the live. It is something that we love when you guys do. Helps us to make sure that we're better prepared, and also helps to let persons know that don't get notifications anymore that we're on. So especially on a day like today when running late, somebody can know, oh, okay, even though I didn't get a notification, and I came on, was looking for him, he wasn't on there earlier, at least they know we're on here now. Praise y'all. So thank you in advance for those that are sharing. Thank you, babe. I see you sharing in different places, but thank you. Thank you. And thank you to everybody else who is sharing as well. Appreciate it. Alrighty. So we're going to Barashayat Yao Tet Aleph, or Genesis chapter 19, verse 1. That's where we'll start. And it reads as follows. It reads and says, and there came 2 messengers, or 2 angels, to Sodom at even, or evening. Remember, evening. So came at even. And Lot sat in the gate of Sodom. And Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face toward the ground. We'll read that one more time. We're just going to read the first verse. Once again, how you doing, Minister Morel? Once again, it reads as follows. It says, and there came 2 angels to Sodom at even, and Lot sat at the gate of Sodom. And Lot, seeing, rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face toward the ground. All right. We just read Genesis chapter 19, verse 1. May Yah bless those who read here and especially listen to His most holy and righteous word. Thank you for referencing the word of Yahweh with us. So, and be safe on your travels, Brother Darius. So, right here we're seeing something. How you doing, Kenneth? We're seeing something very powerful. Now, we haven't done the Barashayat series for a while, since really last Monday, and then I'm going to be off tomorrow and Wednesday. So, uh, but we haven't really done it since last Monday because Thursday we did Passover Q&A, and then Friday we spoke with some things very specific to Passover again, as far as why we were going to be doing the things in the manner we did them, and then Saturday we basically it was still Passover, right? Because we go from the evening to the rising, so we ended up going through Passover stuff again, and then we ended up Sunday. Yesterday was our Q&A, so now finally we're back in Barashayat. And so, just as a reminder, this is a very crucial verse. A lot of persons may not think about the necessity of going through each verse line upon line, precept upon precept, or why is this so important, or what could we be missing if we had just simply, not even discussed this one particular verse. Well, the reason why this verse is important, and I'm gonna give you a salah moment because I just realized I'm missing one more important piece to our live setup. I apologize. It's just I try to do stuff on the fly, figure out stuff on the fly. But I want to leave this in your mind for about 30 seconds before I come right back. I want you to think to yourself, why is it important that it tells you that Lot was found by the two angels, the two messengers? Now remember, there were three messengers that came to Abraham or Abraham. They came, and they didn't even just come at the gate. They came inside the gate. They were they kind of just appeared in front of Abraham, not right in front of his face, but he was at his tent, and just basically a few feet out, maybe 20, 30 feet out, kind of sort of seems that they saw he saw these messengers, which come to find out, the angels they were, and all three of them come, and he serves them. Two of them leave, one stays, and he starts haggling, talking about, well, what if you find 50? Remember, we went over that, 50 means none, perfection. I can't find perfection. Well, what if you find 40? 40 is men, water, blood, and spirit. Can somebody have something that's put on the inside of them that can manifest? Says, I can't find any of those. He says, what if you find 30? The character for 30 is Lamed. Lamed meaning, what if you find 30 that are faithful and like a shepherd, that are under you as a shepherd? He says, I can't find 30. He says, what if you can find 20? He says, look, man, be honest with you, Abraham. It's not looking great. I can't find 20. 20 is the character Kof, meaning we're in his hands, right? He says, I can't find 20 that are even, I can say, are in my hand. I possess them. He says, can you find 10? Which is Yao. Yao meaning that, or at least following the direction of being pushed in the right direction. He said, I can't even find 10. And that's how we ended on Monday, and that's how Genesis chapter 18 ends, right? How you doing, Sister Shima? How you doing, Robert? And those coming in, if I miss you, Kirsten, Sister Mignon, Sister Kimberly. Royal House, Khan just means yes. Khan is basically pretty much yes. How you doing, These Bones? How you doing, Sister Greta? So, and all these things, right? So we see that he says, yes, I can't find them. But then now we start in Genesis chapter 19, verse 1, and it says that the two angels that left, they show up to Sodom, and when they get to Sodom, they run into Lot. And when they run into Lot, Lot is at the gate. So we're going to make that a salat moment. I want you to think to yourself, why is it important that the word is telling you that the two angels came to Sodom, and when they came to Sodom, they found Lot, and they found him at the gate? What does that mean? How important is that? Give me about 30 seconds, and we're going to start right there. Okay. Alrighty, I'm back. That charge wasn't happening quick enough for me on TikTok, so I don't want to lose y'all, run out of power. Alrighty. So, so once again, the question that we left with, and now I'm done. I'm not gonna get up anymore. Praise you. So the question that we left with, right, was why was it so important, right, that they found Lot at the gate? So somebody said, "How you doing, Alilu?" He said he was prepared to receive them. Okay, which is something. There's a reason why somebody might be at the gate. Not in this instance, though. Somebody else said, "Oh wow, okay, it's just gonna be." I'm sorry, y'all. It's gonna be one of those days. My goodness, I spilled all the water out. All right. I'm sorry. Where are we at? Okay, so somebody said it's because he was sitting. Uh, he was prepared to receive them. How you doing, Prince? Somebody else said the elders stay at the gate, which is true, but that's not why he was at the gate. How you doing, Sister Shirley? He's about to go in position. Okay. How you doing tomorrow? Right. So these are those are things. How you doing, Wavy Davy? So those are things that are cultural. You said security. Okay. So watch this. Recall, Lot and Abram lived together. They left the one who raised them both. They kind of were raised as brothers, and Abram thinks about Lot as his little brother, even though technically they're a generation apart. Right. Lot is the grandson of Teran, right? And Abram is the son, or one of the sons, right? And so Abram's, or now Abraham's brother, had passed away. So when Abraham's father passed away, he took Lot with him. And he took Lot with him because the Most High told him it was time to leave. So they left. And if you recall, their camps were having a fight, right? And their camps had so much of a fight that basically Lot came to Abram and said, "Hey, it's time for me to leave," right? And he said it's time for him to leave. How you doing, K1 and only, if I didn't say so already? And everybody coming in here, thank you for the likes, right? Thank you for the love, appreciate you. So he says, so basically, they leave out, and Abram is promised that he's going to be the father of many nations. He's going to have a son that's promised to him, and things are going to go great for him. And so Abram leaves in the promise. He becomes great and mighty, and he continues to have more and more persons joining him and joining his team, if you will, getting under him, and Lot as well, because Abram doesn't, withhold any wealth from Lot. So they both end up growing together, and as they grow together, you see all of a sudden that Lot and Abram's men that work under them start having problems. They start fighting. So the persons who are under them start fighting. They were supposed to be all one happy family, but Abram is first, and Lot is basically like his son. But these persons start fighting over who's better, who's greater, Lot or Abram. And this causes Lot to come to Abram and be like, "Hey, it's too much going on. Persons are fighting. Maybe you should go your way and I should go mine." Abram doesn't really want this to happen. How you doing, Sister Shirley? With that being said, Abram says, "You know what? If that's what's going on, if that's what you want," how you doing, Kente? He says, "If that's what you would like, it is what it is." He tells him, "You look out on the land and you choose where you want to go." Right? He says, "You look out on the land, you choose where you want to go." And so it says that Lot chose these plains, but the plains were, he decided the plains were right next to Sodom. Right? And it says that he pitched his tent facing the gate, facing the entryway, right, his tents were basically at the door of Sodom. So he found a place that looked great, and it was known the wickedness of Sodom and Gomorrah. He found a place though, and he was like, "Man, this place is too much to give up. This is a great place. All the persons who have make money are here. All the wealth, all the parties and stuff. Man, I'm gonna go over here. I'm gonna bring my stuff over here. I'm gonna bring my wealth. I'm gonna bring my status over here." And he puts his tent facing the gate, right? So he's basically at the gate. He's basically putting his wealth, but he's fascinated about Sodom. You know how a lot of persons are fascinated about the United States Corporation, and everybody's running to get there, and then everybody gets to the United States and realizes maybe it's not everything that they said it would be. That's right. You want to be close to the club, right? How you doing, Sister Iska? How you doing? We'll go on, Audrey, right? How you doing? Use it 1025908, etc. Right. So, but he saw this thing afar off, and so he left to go there. And then remember, him and his family get captured. Abram, and right after, sorry, I'm skipping the part. Abram, then after he lets Lot choose, the Most High comes to him and says, "Okay, well, here's the promise, right? Here's the promise, right? The Most High comes to him and says, all right, a promise is still with you, right? Lot, you're raising like a son. Lot is starting to do stuff you know is hurting your heart, but don't forget the promise is still with you. I'm going to make you the father of many nations." And he says, you scan the land everywhere that you look, right? And I'm looking because I want to take this in too. Everywhere that you look, he said it belongs. See, remember we were talking about earlier, those who were on early Rise of Bible study session, the habitation. He inhabits the praises, the habitation. He inhabits the praises of his people, right? So he says, everywhere that you look, Abram, everywhere you look, Abraham, I want you to know is yours. Everything that you see. Lion, right? And so, well, yeah, that's probably where they got it from, in the Lion King, right? But Abraham says, he says to Abraham, look, everywhere that you see is yours. And then Abraham builds an altar. He chooses a place. He lives there. Finds out that Lot and his people get captured. So him and his people take their Zions, their weapons, right, that are also garden tools, you know, like the scythe type thing, and they take them and they go and they win a great victory and they free up everybody. When they free up everybody, they free up Canaan. When they free up Canaan, they free up Melchizedek. When they free up Melchizedek, Melchizedek gives, bestows upon them a blessing. Abraham gives a tithe, and then Abraham even puts Sodom in its place. But guess what? Lot decides he's going to go right back to where he was. Just got freed up, but decides he's going to go right back to where he was. And where was Lot? Lot had decided to separate from the place where the promise was. He decided to separate from Abram, right? He goes ahead and he leaves. And when he leaves and he goes back, what happens? Right? Now he goes back and he decides to go right where his tent was pitched. He decides that it's important to be at the gate. Now, you're not even a sodomite. And I'm not trying to talk about, homosexuality. I'm talking about literally the nation, right? You're not even of Sodom. You're of Tehran. You're of Avda. You're of Hebrew. You're of Shem. You're Shemitic. But because he, for whatever reason, is so entranced with, and by the way, remember what a husband does, whenever a husband's mentioned, a wife is mentioned. That's why they have to make it a point to tell you later on it's Lot's wife who turned into a pillar of salt. But she turned back to look. And we think only about Lot's wife because, once again, very misogynistic, very outside of our culture. How you doing, Bruder Charlie? Very outside of our culture, right? We only look at the wife. So we go, oh, Lot's wife, she was so terrible. You see how she turned around and she was longing for the stuff of the past. And women, they be doing, I've heard so many weird sermons about this, but have you not thought about the fact that Lot kept going back to this place, that he was with the promise, that he decided it was more important to be at the gates of Sodom and have to pitch his tent to where he had all this land, but he had to get land right next to Sodomites? See, this was a husband-wife thing. Both of them together had this mindset. You can see later on why this mindset, they're so into trying to fit in to this culture. You'll see later on, right? We'll get into this today, but you'll see later on that Lot decides it's okay when men are trying to get to the angels, because that training kicked in with Lot from Abraham. So when he sees the angels, he knows the angels, just like Abraham recognized the angels, right? It says Lot bowed down, Abraham bowed down. He had that training in him. But when the persons of the Sodomites came and tried to literally say, hey, we want to lay down with these two angels, they just thought they were two men, right? So they said, we want to lay down with these two men. Lot himself says, hey, take my daughters. He's so messed up, right? He's so entrenched in a culture that's not his own that now he's not even protective over his daughters. And his daughters are at least betrothed, if not wed to, more than likely betrothed, because they haven't they more than likely haven't known the man. But in our culture, you know, you get married on paper before you get physically married, right? We actually get, you know, the paperwork. You're used to the paperwork is signed after you go through the ceremony. In our culture, when you're betrothed and the parents agree, and the paperwork is done then, and then the husband prepares a place for his wife. But these two girls already had, you know, husbands, or at least if you want to call them, already had fiancés, right? And so it shows what's going on where the men, where Lot doesn't protect his daughter, the men don't protect the daughters, right? And the people are saying, give us the angels, and Lot says, no, take my daughters instead. There's a disconnect, right? So we talk about the wife who looked behind and longing for this weird lifestyle that Sodom and Gomorrah brought to them, but we don't often talk about the fact that look at Lot. And that's why you can see, look at how his daughters were raised. No wonder. See, his daughters, once again, they have a righteous intent, but obviously it's wickedness, to say the least. It's disgusting, to say the least, that they say, well, our father doesn't have, you know, family. He doesn't have seed now. We lost our husbands, or we lost our mother, our father, you know, our bloodline's going to end with him. And they lay down with their own father. But we focus so much on the mother, not realizing that the two were one. The mother left. She didn't stop him from leaving Abram. She didn't stop him from pitching a tent at Sodom. Matter of fact, a lot of brothers know how this works too. You don't think that the woman, you don't think that the wife, you don't think that the sister had any say so in where the family was going to live. Salah. The two were working together. The two came away, and this shows that you can be raised in righteousness. You're raised by Abram, but also too, don't forget, he was influenced by Terah. Terah was the one who raised them first. He was the father of Abram, and Abram, if you know about, especially in the book of Jasher, you know that Abram, before he becomes Abraham, and while his father was still alive, Abram and Terah were going back and forth as far as who to serve, should they worship idols. You know, Abram had to eventually learn the truth for himself, and learn the language of his forefathers, and learn and get the scrolls of his forefathers. That's right. That's right, big bro. Like, yeah, your wife definitely is going to say, this is where we, at least she's supposed to have a lot of say in, this is where we're going to be, this is where we're going to stay, right? So the two were working together, and for whatever reason, we only usually focus on her turning back, because she physically turned back. But Lot put his family in a position to where wickedness was going to be dealt with, and he wanted so much to be in what he thought was a great position physically, that he didn't think about what was going to happen spiritually, and he didn't think about what was going to happen ultimately physically to those who were out of pocket spiritually, right? So as much as we kind of absolve Lot from everything, maybe we should be careful. Like, Lot could have done a little better with his choices, right? So, but his family is influenced by this, right? Remember, fathers, we are foundational. So as much as we want to talk about this stuff, right? It'd be one thing if she wasn't standing on the foundation that he built, but he built the foundation when he said, I'm taking everything and I'm going in front of wickedness. I'm going to pitch my tent. Remember, even the word tent or house doubles for the word family. So when he pitched his tent facing Sodom, it says that he faced his family towards wickedness. Right, and we can see how this works in modern times, right? By the way, even though Noah's a little further back, a few generations before this, but just as in the days of Noah, we're not that far from Noah in Barashayat. We're not. Right? We're in Genesis 19 right now, and Noah is told to start building the ark in Genesis chapter 6. Right? Noah's still mentioned up to Genesis chapter 10, Genesis chapter 11. So we're still kind of, you know, there's a few generations separated, but we're not that far. And so just as in the days of Noah, you'll find the same thing, to where persons are separating from righteousness, right? Separating from righteousness as much as is possible. And we have to make it a point to realize that this is still going on. How you doing, Mr. 252? So in all these different things, how you doing, Ness? So in all these things that are going on, we see here clearly that, who is it I'm looking for? I'm sorry, forgive me, family. We see here clearly that that Lot is at the gate, not because he was waiting on the angels, which, by the way, when Abram met the angels, he wasn't waiting on them either. right? But the angels didn't even stop at the gate. The angels came inside Abram's property. They came right up to Abram's land. They came right up to his house. Lot's house is not in Sodom. You know, I used to confuse that when I was a child, right? Growing up, the way that this was presented, I thought Lot lived in Sodom. How you doing, Just Josh? However, clearly, if you read your word, read your Bible, it'll bless you. If you read the word, you discover real quick that Lot pitched his tent and his family and put all his servants basically facing right up to Sodom, right? He decided to get right up to Sodom. This means that he's interacting with Sodom. He's not even a Sodomite, but he's trying his best to interact, right? And although I know he's not an Israelite, he is a Hebrew. He's not an Israelite, but I just want to use this as an example. There's a lot of Israelites that be messing with Sodomites. And I'm not, once again, just talking about homosexuality, even though, yes, that is a part of it. That's part of the wickedness, one of the things that's mentioned, right? But I don't think persons really get that and grasp that. I don't think persons really comprehend that, right? That a lot of stuff, there are a lot of Israelites out here messing with Sodomites. And once again, I'm not just talking about, you know, buck breaking or bronco busting or whatever it is, right? I'm talking about the fact that there's a lot of persons out here who are dealing in wickedness, but you want to continue to like play defense, or you get a chance. A lot of our diaspora does this. Hey, as soon as you make it out, what you do? You got to get out and get to where Sodom is. Hey, how you doing, Sister Michelle? If I didn't say so already, all right? As soon as we get out, we got to make it over to Sodom. As soon as we get out, we got to get close to where they are. We got to leave Abram. We got to leave the promise. We got to get our own. And then once we get our own, we don't even think about the fact that we're pitching our tent. It's so attractive. It's so attractive. The devil makes this stuff attractive, by the way. How you doing, Brother Henry? Remember, the angel can change himself into the devil can change himself into an angel of light. He is an angel, the fallen angel. But the devil can change himself into an angel of light. An angel of light is a messenger of enlightenment. So that means that the devil can... Have you ever thought about the fact that so many persons are enlightened, but they have no clue what it is to be in Yah? How you doing, Brother TJ? I'm going to say that one more again. Somebody might have missed that. I don't want that to go past us. I'm not saying it went over our head. I don't want it to go past you. I don't want it to go in one ear and out the other, right? Put a pin in that. There are a lot of persons who are so enlightened that they can't follow Yah. Salah. There are persons who are so enlightened that they can't follow Yah. They're so smart that they can't see Yah in anything. And they keep trying to extract him and extrapolate him from every single item that they come across. Yah's not, there's no such thing as Yah being in the trees. There's no such thing as Yahweh being in our DNA. There's no such thing as Yah us being able to see the Most High in his handiwork. But then they'll give you terms like intelligent design, because they'll say, well, somebody had to design it, so nature designed herself. That's right. Well, they got the awareness of it. The knowledge is the intimacy. They would call it knowledge because they think they're intimate with this stuff. This is why you have to be careful. Like, I love science. Science blows my mind every day. I learn something scientifically every day. Seriously, I'm not a scientist. So I learn something scientifically every day that blows my mind. That being said, do you know that most scientists believe in Yah, but you'll never know that because they don't want you to be aware of that or be intimate with that. They want you to believe that science is separate from Yah. But most scientists around the world believe in the Most High. How you doing, Officer Sauce? You said, but yet they keep finding his signature on everything, right? You know, but that's their responsibility. That's their job. They're of the wicked one. But I want you to recognize, like, some persons are so smart, they're so enlightened, right? The devil can change himself into an angel of light. How you doing, Minister Samela, right? You know, did I say Shalom already? I think I might have. You know, but I'm telling you, I'm not trying to, look, if the shoe fits, wear it. If it doesn't, take it off. I'm not trying to make fun of anybody or insinuate anything about anybody. I'm just keeping it a buck with you, right? We used to call them, and I used to be one of them. Can I be honest with you? I used to be one of them. You can be a really smart, dumb person. And I know what the word dumb actually means, but just roll with me for a second. You get the context, right? There are persons, they are really smart, dumb persons. Highly intelligent, very dumb, right? Have a lot of information, very dumb, right? I used to be one of them. So I'm not saying you have to say you were one of them. I'm not saying your family member. I'm not saying your friend did. I'm talking about, I know what it is to have to realize one day, just like Paul did. Remember, Paul, before he was Paul, he was Saul. And when he was Saul, a lot of persons just think of him only as being in the Sanhedrin. Saul was somebody who was known, I can't say worldwide, but he was known throughout parts of Rome as being highly intelligent, right? He would make speeches in different places. He was a Roman citizen and an Israelite citizen, right? And really, I guess all of them technically were, but he did things with that others didn't do. Then he said, when I found out who Yehoshaphat was, he said, when I actually came into the realization of who Yehoshaphat was, he said, for the first time, I realized that everything that I knew, everything I was intimate with, was as dumb, was as S-H-I, you know what, that word that rhymes with spit, right? He said, everything that I knew, I realized it was nothing. It was dumb. It was as if it came out of the backside of an animal, wasted product, right? That's what dung is. It's wasted product, right? It's stuff that the body cannot receive, and so it's excreted out, and nobody wants to touch it or do anything with it except plants. Because, right? That's why it even has that smell and everything. Your body, here's a scientific fact, your body literally doesn't like the smell of it because it finds it to be dangerous. You said you had the same feeling? Yeah, and I had to come across that one day where I was like, wait a minute. I got to a point in my journey where it's like everything that I knew, and I got upset about it. A lot of persons get upset about it when it's like, wait a minute, this is stuff that somebody knew and they told us something else. Yeah, everything that I knew was as dumb because the prism it came through was nothing. The prism it came through caused strife. It was there to cause war. It was there to cause me to. It was there to cause me to be in contempt, to find contempt with myself and my people. It was there for me to as Psalm 123, I believe says, that not only does were we taught to be filled with contempt. It's like 123 or 122. Maybe hold on. Yeah, 120. It's 122 or 123. I think it might be 122. But one of them, where it talks about that, it's like only 4 verses long. That song, it's the third or fourth step, or it's got to be the fourth step. So I guess it's Psalm 123. The fourth step is in the Song of Degrees, and it talks about how we are filled with contempt for ourselves, and the enemy does, and he's at ease with your scorn, right? And scorn is when you feel like you're on the bottom, and you make sure you stay there. That Willie Lynch mindset, right? You said your second cousin's so smart, he's stupid. He's an English teacher. He'll put those without college degrees. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. How you doing, Brother Ali? So there's a lot of really smart. I was a really smart, dumb person, and then I got to a place where I realized I'm like stupid. I'm not talking about you. You ain't got to say. I'm talking about me. Psalm 123. Thank you. Right? I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about me. Right? I realized I'm really stupid out in these streets. Like even with having some book smarts, I was street stupid, and even with some book smarts, I was book stupid because I wasn't even opening up the right book with the right context. I became a really smart dumb person, right? And a lot of persons are really smart dumb persons. Unfortunately, a lot of our people are really smart dumb persons because we go through prisms that have nothing to do with the will of Yah. Not trying to make fun of anybody. If the shoe fits, wear it. If it doesn't, take it off. Right? How you doing, Roswell? So when we get to this point, we have to realize that you can have a lot of stuff. So the devil, he can change himself. Chasatan can change himself into an angel of light. You going somewhere thinking that's what enlightenment is, and everybody's so enlightened that they're so enlightened they can't follow Yah. Right? Right? It's nothing worse than somebody is so trained to be in the dark. Right? They can operate in the dark without any night vision goggles. They've been in the dark so long in their life that they can't operate when the sun comes out. humbly ignorant. Praise y'all. How you doing, Sister Monique? Right? There you go. Charge it to my head, not to my heart. No, I'm talking about me. I'm talking about I know what it is to be a smart, dumb person and realize one day, man, I got all this intel, and if y'all came back today, I don't know if I'd make it. And that makes me a very smart, dumb person. Enlightenedly lied to. He said he put prophecies too until you seek Yah's wisdom, you will never be free. That's right. And then when you get his wisdom, you get his prism. That's why that word says, "Oh, magnify Yahweh with me, and let us exalt his name together." Oh, magnify, is that Psalm 34? Not sure. I feel like I might be off on that. But where it says, oh, magnify Yahweh with me, and let us exalt his name together. What is it talking about? To magnify. To magnify, a lot of us go, make it bigger. True, but incomplete. To magnify means what? In order for something to be magnified, it has to go through a prism. It has to go through a lens, right? So it's not that it's bigger. It's magnified, meaning that what you're looking at doesn't even get bigger, but what you're seeing is bigger through the lens, right? So if I have a microscope and I put something microscopic underneath it, I can't see the microscopic stuff on the even if I know what I put on there, I can't see it. I have to slide the disc and everything and put the little safety thing or whatever they put on there, the clear tab, so that nothing is messing with it and you can see it clearly and it keeps it kind of in place and it doesn't spill and all that. And then I take that and I put it under one side of the lens, right? And then on the other side, I control how much it magnifies, right? On the other side. And so if I want to see it 100 times, I can set it up. If I want to look in 200 times, 400 times. It hasn't changed the size of what I'm looking at, but it's magnified. It's allowed it to get that I can see things that I could not see before. So a lot of persons have this weird mindset of that magnify Yahweh with me means that we will make him larger. We can't make Yah larger than he is. He's not going to get bigger than he is. He's not going to get smaller than he is. Yah is Yah. How you doing, Truth Seeker, for Yah? Right? Yahweh is Yahweh. That's it. Right? He doesn't need us to make him bigger. He can't get bigger. So when people say, "Yeah, we make you bigger," I've heard persons do that in praise and worship so many times in my life behind the keyboard, it'll make your head spin. We make you bigger, yeah. We make you bigger. We need you to be bigger. He's not getting bigger. He's eternal. The universe is ever expanding, so Yah's ever expanding. That's not, no, I don't know. Right? Smart, dumb persons. You have some knowledge, but it's incomplete, and the half-truth is always the whole lie. And now you're lying to yourself, or allowing the devil to allow you to lie to yourself without you even knowing it. It magnifies Yahweh. So we're just starting to see, right, how big he actually is, or not even how big he is. We're just starting to actually get into stuff that's not on the surface level with him. We're starting to actually go, oh, 100 times greater. I've never seen Yah at 100 times. Hey, magnify him with us, and once we both look at 100 times, let us exalt his shem, his authority, his name, his together. Right? So here once again in Genesis chapter 19 verse 1, right? Unfortunately, Lot is in a position to where he's out of position. He's at the gate. Right? He's at the gate of Sodom, and he shouldn't even be there. He's not a sodomite. He shouldn't have left Abel. Psalm 34 verse 3 is what we're talking about. Oh, magnify the Lord. Thank you. Right? That's I will bless the Lord at all times, and his praises will continuously be in my mouth. Right? My soul shall make her boast in the Lord. Right? The humble shall hear, and they shall be glad. And then verse 3, oh, magnify Yahweh with me, and let us exalt his name together, right? I believe if we keep going down, verse 8 is where you get to, oh, taste and see that Yahweh Tabah, right? That Yahweh is great, right? And by the way, I love this thing, oh, taste and see, because it doesn't say you have to eat it, even though we're supposed to eat the whole scroll. It says if somebody can get a taste, of the scroll. If we can give it to them properly and feed them properly and give them what they're supposed to have and show them what the word says and show them what pure, unadulterated righteousness is, that thing is sweeter than honey. And it says when John ate the whole scroll, it was sweet like honey, but it was bitter too. And the bitterness is healing to the blood. It helps the stomach. The sweetness is talking about the honey, and the honey has great effects as well. Mm. So it says, oh, taste. Just, you don't have to have the whole thing. Can you just taste so you can recognize how Tabayahava is? And by the way, that I love that in the older versions of the Bible, it'll use saying such as, instead of you're an example, it'll say stuff like you are an ensample. Now that word has become example, but it used to be more like you were an ensample. Person sample you, they taste. So you might be the taste that somebody gets. You are a living epistle, the Bible says. You are a living letter. You are a living epistle, something that Yah has written out for others to be able to see. You are a living epistle, and somebody will see your walk and see your praise and see your ways and see your love and see your heart and see you go through tough times too. And see what you came out of, and see your finances, and see your growth, and see your development, and see your mindset, and see your marriage. And they'll say, I like what I sampled there. I need that in my life. Oh, taste and see. You might be the thing that they taste. Be careful how you act. That's right. It's like when you go to the mall, at least, when I used to go to the mall all the time back in the day, and there was always usually, for me, it was usually going to be the Chinese spots. Right? Chinese spots, sometimes Japanese spots. Usually they would do it more, even though everybody did a little bit of it. But or you could go up and you could ask for one, but somebody would usually stop you somewhere and they'd be like, taste this. Right? Taste this. It's just a little piece of chicken or something, or a little thing of noodles in a little cup. Right? Those little plastic cups, almost thimble size. Well, not thimble size, I don't know. Plastic, you know what I'm talking about, little plastic cups. And it's almost it's only enough for you to taste. Yeah, that chicken on the stick. There's only enough for you to taste. But they know watch, they keep sowing. They know that they might give 100 samples, and 100 samples of that chicken, right, might be worth like 3-4 orders. But if out of 100 samples, 20 persons say, you know what, I like what I taste, it was worth it. Oh my greatness. Come on, Brother Aaron. It's worth it. I might give 100 samples. That's why the sower of the seed in Matthew chapter 13, he throws the seed, he throws the seed, he throws the seed. And sometimes it's just ate up by the birds. Sometimes it's scorched by the sun. Sometimes it gets rooted a little bit, but it doesn't go that deep, and so it can't survive on its own. Sometimes the vicissitudes of life choke the life out of it. So the thorns and the thistles and everything and different things can choke the life out of it, or the weeds, what we call weeds, can choke the life out of it, right? But then there's, all it takes is 1 or 2 of them. If they grow 30, 60, 100 fold, it was worth every seed that was thrown out. Oh my greatness, right? So in sample, you might be the sample of somebody's life, but be careful, because Lot was raised by a sample, but still said, you know what, I like the things that Abram has, but once I got what Abram has, I'll leave. But he never thought about, hey, Abram is being faithful and going where Yah wants him to go. And he just pitched his tent anywhere. And he pitched his tent facing Sodom and Gomorrah. Hey, you know what? It's a time over here. Hey, that's cool. Maybe he even did what a lot of persons do, Like, hey, yeah, maybe Yah wants these persons to be saved. And Yah wasn't on that time. Yah was on destruction time. How you doing, Elder Select Tamara? He was on some other time. He was on a time for destruction. Come on, somebody. He wasn't on that timing. He thought he was, but a lot of persons do that. Hey, I'm gonna go here. Maybe Yah's called me to this. But Lot left, and when Lot left, he kept on getting in trouble. And Abram came and got him. Abram prayed for him and all that stuff. And Lot continued. Lot never went back, even after what happened to Sodom and Gomorrah. That's right. Read between those lines. Read your Bible. It'll bless you. Make sure if you leave, whatever you leaving, your job, whatever, I'm done with this marriage, whatever. Okay, make sure Yah said. How you doing, Elder Select Nice? Make sure Yahweh said. If he ain't say it, what's the scripture say? Unless Yah build the house, You can finish it up. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up. Unless Yah build the house. Ultimately, whatever you do is in vain. So he was coming for destruction of Sodom. Lot went and got some land over there because he thought, and by the way, remember, Sodom was got and caught up in the first place. That's why Abraham had to go over to Sodom and set Sodom straight after he rescued Lot. And Lot still was like, no, big bro, I'm gonna go ahead and stay over here. He's like, nephew, I just saved your life. No, man, it's cool. I got it. So persons have to work out their own salvation too. Don't I won't say don't be sad. It can be sad. However, don't beat yourself up. You done ran after somebody 75,000 times. I think I talked about that on last Monday. I gave the example of somebody now chasing, think they're gonna get themselves together, stuff like that. Or maybe it was Saturday, Sunday, whatever it was. But yeah, like don't beat yourself up. Don't beat yourself up when persons who are wicked or persons keep choosing wickedness or keep trying to pitch their tent. Remember, there's a lot of Israelites who trying to be close to Sodomites. Once again, I'm not just talking about sexuality, even though it's prevalent even in y'all churches. There's a lot of Israelites that want to be close to Sodomites. That's where you get a TD Jakes. I told y'all, who knows? I'm not here to tell you what TD Jakes did or did not do. Right? I'm not here to tell you what he did or did not do. I don't know what he did or did not do. But he was disobedient to the word. You know how I know he was disobedient to the word? Because the word said, make sure that you're careful of the very appearance of evil. So you know what time it is with Diddy. You know what time it was with Michael Irvin. Right? You know what time it was with this one and that one, whatever. So just the fact that there was, hear what I'm saying? Just the fact that there literally was the appearance of evil and you decided to be next to it, you already messed up. Right? You already messed up. If somebody was lying about you, but you was never near the evil, that's easy. That's easy for people that's easy for persons to come on here and be like, we can defend Bishop Jakes. Right? Bishop Jakes, if this ever gets to you, your issue is not what you think it is. You suing and all this stuff or whatever. Guess what? You were so close to evil that now if this dude who's lying about you saying that you did stuff to him when he was young, hey, but persons now can believe it because you were too close. Hey, how you doing, Chris? Right? You hear what I'm saying? So because TD Jakes, you was too close. You set your tents right there at Sodom. You were trying to make sure that you were seen. You had to be in the movies and this and that. You had to start changing who you were to fit in. You had to make sure that you were doing this, that, whatever. You had to do all these different things. You got in even to the Hollywood stuff. You started doing a lot of things that are weird behavior to fit in, or even if you weren't being weird, you were around the weird behavior enough to where now persons have to assume that you weird. Right? Like if somebody were to come out to y'all, watch this. If somebody were to be like, you know what, Pastor Kofi is lying. He don't be doing what he doing. You know what? He's not even about what he says he is. He doesn't do Passover and stuff like that. Y'all would say, but I was on Zoom with him on Friday. Somebody else would say, well, yeah, who knows what he was doing? Maybe he did Passover with y'all, but you know, he was probably out there with girls, this and that. They'd be like, no, I was with him and his wife and his son. Right? I'm not even around the very appearance of. You see what I'm saying? Right? And I'm not trying to say there are things that even I do that are biblical, and I would have no problem. I told y'all before, you know, y'all gonna have to get used to Pastor Kofi. If I ever get cancer or something, I'm gonna be on here, you know, chiefing a little bit, whatever, right? Because I don't actually find it there's nothing in the word that says you can't have a herb. That being said, I would probably never actually do it in front of y'all. Why? There are persons, right, that I would never do that in front of, or even think to do it in front of. Even if I believe it's okay medicinally, right? There's persons I would never drink with or drink in front of, even if I believe the word says it's okay to do. Why wouldn't I do that? Because I know that I have to make sure that there's a certain thing that I have to make sure the very appearance of it. That's right. Some would be very easily offended. Some wouldn't. But some would be so offended, and then all it would take is now one person to be out there, Pastor Kofi, he be drinking all the time. No, I don't. He be chiefing all the time. No, I don't. You know, Pastor Kofi, right? And I'll tell y'all this too. I'll be honest with you. I got a pipe, and I don't really smoke weed or nothing like that. But you know, not that often. To be honest with you, just being honest. Right. That being said, though, and it's only usually if I have certain things or certain pains and things like that. But I put stuff in there like clove or different things that are set up to make sure if I have cravings of going back to cigarettes and stuff like that, I'll put the stuff in the pipe. It's natural. I don't put, you know, I'm not putting menthol in there. You got five, you know, but I'm just saying, I'll put stuff up in there, but I could become a stumbling block to someone. So because of that, yeah, there's certain things that you'll never, even if I tell you straight up, yeah, you can do that. There's certain things you'll never see me do, right? Especially in front of the assembly, because what would it look like? It would cause, especially in these days, unfortunately, there are persons who would look at it as evil, and somebody, if it stops them from coming to the truth, then it's my fault, right? If it stops them from coming to the truth, it's my fault. And even with that, bold servant, right? Peep game, how righteous you might not even realize you are in saying that. When it says what comes out of a man that defiles him, Yahashua is talking about the fact that the religious leaders don't follow the law. That they too, in that time. Remember, some of them are trying to be more Greco-Roman than Israel, but they're trying to use Israelite laws to excuse their Greco-Roman nature. And he hits them and basically says, "Yo, like these cats out here are saying all these things or whatever." He says, but they don't even, they talk about law, but they don't even take care of their parents. He says, so look at what's coming out of their mouth. That's the problem. That's the context of it. This is what comes out of a man. They talk about us. We don't follow the traditions of their fathers, but they don't. Their fathers aren't even our fathers all the time. Number one, that's what he's saying. Like he's like their fathers aren't even Israel. Number one, some of them. But in number two, their fathers are following traditions that are unlawful. So he said, right? So we had to get in there. Even when it comes to food, right? When you look at what the dream that Paul had, that Peter had, and everybody talks about, yeah, Peter had this dream and all these things, and he said, well, you call clean what I or unclean what I made clean. And everybody goes, well, that means we should be able to eat pork and stuff, right? Because they want to get to them ham hocks, they want to get to them pig knuckles, you know, they want to eat that hog maws, they want to get to all these chitterlings and stuff. They want to eat the rump, you know. Right? It's not pumps to the bum. They want pumps. They trying to pump the rump in their mouth. No pause. That's what they doing. That's what you doing. You eating them. Oh, I'm about to say something crazy. Oh, okay, hold on. Okay, I gotta say it. I'm about to say. So this is how some of y'all think. We got to put it out there. They literally eating pig cheeks, right? And ain't nobody saying nothing about it. Right? They want they want to act like this is normal. All right, I'm just being honest. Right? You eating that rump? That's what you doing. Calling it a roast. You eating that rump? Right? That's what you doing. You eating that seat meat? That's what you eating, right? Okay, I'm just saying, right? You say you don't eat no cheeks. I don't know. You might want to you might want to look. I don't know. It seems like you seem like you're doing a little something, but I'm gonna leave it alone. Uh, but I'm just saying that's what you eat. But that dream that he has, right? That dream, Holy Spirit. You gotta be all right. The that dream that dream that Peter has. I don't know why I'm cracking myself up. I'm sorry. I'm corny sometimes. That dream that Peter has, right, is is about him needing to talk to a Gentile, and Peter has issues because Peter sometimes will eat and drink in fellowship with those that are Gentiles, but then as soon as Hebrews and Israelites would come around, he would leave, and he would come up. It was like the cool children in school, you know, and all of a sudden, you know, you sit down with the one child and stuff, but then all of a sudden the group that you want to be a part of comes in and they say, hey, Kofi, come over here, and you pick up your tray and you leave your boy alone because they don't fit in. And you go, I'm sorry, man, maybe next time, and you go over there because you want to fit in so bad, right? You know, so you know, like that's what Peter was doing. So he has this dream because some of his boys called him out. Some of his other boys called him out and be like, what you talking to them Gentiles for? And Peter says, look, before y'all get on me, I know I'm the dude who don't be, trying to stay away from the Gentile, blah, blah. But he says, I had this dream, and y'all kept showing me over and over again in the dream, hey, like you're going to, he kept showing me this tablecloth that was in the shape of a table, and it kept coming down and had unclean food on it. And I would hear his voice say, eat. And I said, no, I'm not eating this. I thought it was a test. And then he showed it to me again. I was like, no, I'm not eating this. And then the third time he did it. And then this time, the third time he said, will you call clean what I made whole? I still didn't eat it. He still didn't eat it. I want to make this clear. He still didn't eat it, though. Because a lot of persons will try to be like, this is an excuse. No. He still followed the law. He didn't eat it. So then what happens after that? He says, then what happened was I went into my, or he said, then I went, and somebody told me that there was this Gentile who wanted to learn the truth. He said I learned it was this Gentile that wanted to learn the truth. And he said, I realized that's what the dream was about. It wasn't about the food. The food was, that was preparing me for like, hey, there's somebody who wants to know the truth for themselves. And so he said, I went over to his house. I had been invited to go and give him a word. And I went over there, and then he got so into the word, he caught the Holy Ghost. He caught Holy Spirit. And when he caught Holy Spirit, then I knew that's why I had the dream. The dream was never about eating physical food. The dream was about, hey, I need you to recognize that there's other persons that they need to be grafted in, and they need to have Holy Spirit too. Right? You said you knew a man that ate so much swine that he started looking like one. I mean, that's what happens to you, right? So, because you are what you eat. So yeah, but getting back to Genesis chapter 19, praise y'all. I done talked about all types of stuff and strange flesh and strange meats and whatever. I gotta start saying no diddy on these things. All right, Genesis chapter 19, right? And so Lot was found at the gate by the angels. The angels were coming with the message, or if you guys recall, even from early Rise of Bible study session today, the angels were coming in with a message, right? They were coming in with a message of destruction, right? Yah had righteous indignation against them, and these persons needed to be destroyed. And so these angels are coming in, and Lot's in a very bad place because he's at the door. Now the door is where, well, like we said, the elders are there, or the door is where those who are there. So Lot's trying to fit in with elders. Once again, you're not a sodomite. You're not an Israelite either, but hey, I'm gonna say it for us, you're not a sodomite, you're an Israelite. What you doing at their door, at their gates? What you gonna do when the angels show up and it's time for destruction? How you doing, Jose? What you gonna do? See, you gotta be willing to be all in. Can I tell you something? A little testimony. We went to an RV place in Arizona. We're still in Arizona now at the Grand Canyon. We're gonna leave and start heading up to Cali. By the way, Brother Vincent, if you're on, we are headed up there. I'm gonna give you some info or whatever. Excuse me. Or and if you're not, I'll text everybody who's around there, whatever. If you're in Cali, we're gonna be in San Fran. So I know that California's huge, but we're gonna be in the San Fran area more than likely, right? But we were at an RV place in or right outside of Sedona, and we were there when I had the nice signal, the better signal, and I was outside under the gazebo. That's where we were, right? And interesting, we got to the house, had almost zero signal. But anyway, we were at the place with the gazebo and stuff, and we were having oh yeah, when I got there, right, I was wearing all Jew no-ish gear, right? And one of the guys that was there, he's Spanish / Native American, and he's like, what do you mean by, what does that mean, all Jew no-ish? And I forgot on the back it's got the, menorah and stuff on there, so I didn't even think about that either. And he's like, and I was like, I just kind of breathed heavy, like, because you don't know how this is gonna go, right? So it's like, should I just play it off, or should I sit here and tell truth? So Holy Spirit was like, give him a word real quick, tell him a little spiel. So I was like, okay, well, I'm not a Christian, but I'm actually a Jew. You know, I'm an actual biblical Jew by definition. I'm not Jewish. So somebody in our community, they make some stuff, and you know, it's about us being like 100% and being about our culture, and now we're blah blah blah. And I go through, and while I'm going through the spiel, he stops me. He goes, "Oh, okay." He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "You're Israel." He's like, "I'm Israel too." He's like, "I'm with the tribe of Issachar." And so this dude was looking out for us for the rest of the time. He's like the head I don't know if, well, he's like the head maintenance guy for the grounds. So he was, and then we came back later because we needed to fill up propane tank. So we had to make sure that stuff, everybody was safe and everybody was where they needed to go. And so the next time I was wearing Brother Jermaine's gear. So next time I'm wearing the stuff, and this one got the fringes on it, right? And so I'm wearing Brother Jermaine's stuff, and he sees me again, and he's like, "What you?" He's like, "You guys still here?" And I was like, "No, we went to Sedona. We did Passover." I was like, "We're getting ready to leave, but we're stopping here for some propane." And he goes, and he looks down, and he goes, "Impressive, you wearing your fringes." I was like, "I'm trying." I was like, "Everywhere I go, I try to keep up culture. Wherever I go, I'm trying to make sure I'm on point." And he says, "Cool." And he turns to the guy. He says, "Hey, uh, give him my discount, 25% off." Right? Showing the culture, right? Little testimony that blessed me, right? So my family benefited twice over, right? In the middle of Arizona, Sedona, Arizona, the desert. I'm not thinking I'm coming across any of us, but because I was in position and did what I was supposed to, there go that favor, right? So, and two different persons, right? It was all Juno-ish, and it was, it's right, it was Bruder Charlie, it was Brother Jermaine, and I just had the same stuff. I'm not changing the stuff. I'm not trying to do different. The same stuff y'all see me doing live, I'm doing when I'm walking around, and favor shows up, right? Because somebody goes, "Oh yeah," and then is impressed enough to say, "Next time, not only would I look out for you, but the next time, hey, give them my discount." You see what I'm saying? Next time, give him my discount. You see, right? Like bless, like he bless him, right? The world, right? He gives you favor. He'll bring you before great men. This stuff is real. We just don't be believing it because we don't operate it. We're not building a nation. But when the nation, when you start living nation, I've told you before, Solomon and I be out in public, and sometimes I might not have my fringes on. He have his on, and then all of a sudden somebody see his fringes and be like, "Oh, y'all Israelites." Oh, okay. Well, here's a little something for him. He learning to put it together. He's putting together. Oh, okay. When I'm righteous, or when I wear this means something to somebody. Once again, like we talked about this rising, a reward. What is a reward? A redistribution of what? Of territory. That's why in your territories in D.C. we got 8 wards. Ward 7 and Ward 8. Those are the rough ones. Those are ours, right? but they're ours, and they mean a lot to me, right? But that's what a ward is. So, right, you can be a ward of the state if you're not careful. Matter of fact, all of you are technically wards of state. You just don't know it because they don't give you that official title, right? But we want to do something and start presenting things to where there is a reward. We want our children, like our children that got to come by, and even the ones that came and saw us, via phone calls or FaceTime or Zoom or whatever during this stuff. We want them to see that when they come around each other, this is a reward. Like there's redistribution. There is something that's given to you because you decided to not be in the world, right? That's part of the nation building. And so, but unfortunately, Lot had decided to try to reward himself. And here come the messengers of destruction. And now it's time for them to destroy, right? Now, because Lot was connected to Abraham, they still gave him a way out. But Lot was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Or if you want to look at it the way that y'all probably saw it, he was in the wrong place at the right time. Because y'all's timing is always right. Right? So let's get into verse 2. We just been on verse 1. Praise God. This is a word right here. So Psalm 19, verse 2. All right, well, so Lot saw him. He lowered his head to the ground, same as Abraham did. So he knew what time it was. He knew there was angels. And so he knew they were different, even though he was in the wrong place, even though he had pitched his tent, even though he had left Abraham, even though he was outside the promise, right? So verse 2, and he said, Hanai, pay attention. Behold now, my Adons, right? He says, my lords, he knows what's up. Turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house, and tarry all night and wash your feet, right? Washing of the feet. We talked about that during Passover and stuff, how important that is. And wash your feet, and ye shall rise up early and go your ways. Excuse me. You shall rise up early and go your ways. And they said, nay, but we'll abide in the street all night. They said, nay. Now, Abraham said, hey, why don't you guys go ahead and stay at my house and let us serve you? They said yes. Abraham, you see the environment difference? You see there's a different response to them, to Abraham? You catch that? It's a different response with Abraham. Abraham, you're in position. Abraham, you're where you were told to be. Abraham, you know, you're carrying, you're in the promised land, right? Yeah, I told you to stay in a certain place. You didn't move. Lot says, please, let me serve you. Right? Has the same mindset as Abraham. Says the same thing. Bows down the same way. Says, Lord, but we caught you in the wrong territory. Uh-oh. We caught you in the wrong ward. Yeah, they said it's better for us to just stay in the street than it is to even come in your house, because your house is dirty, bruh. Right? It's better for us to be in the street than it is to be in your house. See, a lot of persons don't want to walk this walk, because when you walk this walk, guess what? Sometimes it's going to be better for you to stay in the street than it is to be in somebody's house. I look back at being homeless and some of the places that I was pining for it in, to be like, man, I wish somebody would have let me in. And then I found out what some of these jokers were into later on. And I was like, you know what? I'm glad that I slept in the street looking up at the stars. It was better for me to do that than it was to probably be in this dude's presence. I would have been around the appearance of evil bare minimum. I look back and I go, man, you know what? I used to pine for an opportunity to preach at this one's church and this one's church and this one's church. If somebody would let me come on here, why won't anybody let me on their lives or this and that or whatever? Now I'm like, you know what? I'm straight. I'm all right. I'll be in obscurity over here. I'll be in a dark place, which is a safe place over here. I'll be in obscurity. Cool. I work well in it. We still growing. We still reaching thousands. I'll have what y'all call low numbers of this and that or whatever, and I'll still have our nation be built, and I'll be 100% fine with it, because I've seen what happens with some of these places that I was trying to get into. Right? I might not know TD Jakes, but I know this one who sits right next to TD Jakes, and I found out some things, and I was like, ooh. Okay, you know, I might not know Jamal Bryant, but I know this one who knows Jamal Bryant and helps him set up. And when I found out some more things that I already knew from other persons who were under him in Baltimore, oh, I'm not, see, so when I mention these names, I'm not just mentioning cats or whatever, right? And I'm not trying to do anything or whatever. And I guess I have to say allegedly things that they've done, but you find out something. Some of it ain't alleged. Pastor Jamal Bryant, he's out here doing that A word that rhymes with extortion to babies, and then going preaching to persons in new birth, talking about how you shouldn't tell a woman what to do with her body. Why? Because he was paying women that he was cheating with to make sure that they were aborting these babies. And then finally, when he got caught up in it, because some of them wouldn't, including his own wife, and his wife found out about it and she wanted child support, right, and all these different things. But everybody can't wait to put him up and say, see, they trying to treat him, they trying to turn him into MLK. Right? They trying to turn him into MLK. Be careful about what they do with these false preachers. Yeah, I said it. Be careful about those who falsify the word. Be careful about those that'll give you goosebumps. A lot of persons think, I'm not saying he doesn't say anything of value, but remember, he has to give you a partial truth to give you the lie. A half truth, though, is still a whole lie. So you got to be careful when you're running around with all this stuff. And running around with somebody that just makes you feel great, or even somebody that has the ability to make you feel sad. Don't get in your feelings as much as, hey, yes, this can be something, yes, this can put weight on you, but make sure that you're getting something that is righteous. I don't care if I make you cry. I don't care if I make you happy. Make sure I give you the truth. Lot knew what he was supposed to do, but he was in the wrong position, in the wrong place. I'm just trying to tell you. Lot knew what he was supposed to do, but y'all can look. It's like when Yahashua says that there are those who fed persons and clothed persons, and gave them something to drink, and visited them in prison, visited them when they were sick, and took care of them when they were strangers. And they say, and Yehashua says, get away from me, you workers of iniquity. I never knew you. And they say, how didn't you know? Right? How didn't you know this? How didn't you know that? Or whatever. Right? But you didn't do it with the right heart, or even you didn't do it to the least of these. You just did it to random, or you never asked them who you should do it to, or you did it to try and get, views, right? Get those pictures in and to tell everybody what you did. But then Yahashua says there's others that will give persons who are thirsty something to drink, and others who will give hungry persons, hungry persons something to eat, and others who will clothe those who don't have clothes, and others who will visit you in prison, and others who will see you in the hospital, and others who will make it a point to take care of the strangers, the foreigners who come in as well. And he says, come in. He says, you are worthy of coming in. And they say, how are we worthy? And he said, you took care of what you do to these, the least of my brethren, you do unto me. What you do to what? To who? To the least of these, my brethren. The first will be last, the last will be first. This is why Muhammad Ali taught a great message, or spoke a great message one day. He said, I don't look at what you do to me. He says, I don't look at how you treat me. He says, I look at how you treat the waiter. He said the environment can be different. If you a fan of mine, right, and I hope I have no fans, right? I don't like fanatics. I'm not a fanatic myself, right? That being said, if you're a fan of somebody's, right, being a fan is different, right? So you'll treat whoever you have made to be whatever you want them to be different. But the waiter, the one who serves you, how do you treat them? You know? Waiter or waitress. To me, they're both waiters, but I know there's waiter and waitress, right? But how do you treat them? How do you treat the janitor? Do you greet the janitor? How do you treat the mother who comes in and has 5 children by 5 different fathers? And she says, I need help. Do you say, I'll pray for you, and then never pray for her, or give some kind of weird thing, just tell her to everybody come in a circle and stuff, but then after that, nobody goes and tries to help her and teach her what it is to be a wife? Help her with the children, help her with food, help her with groceries. A lot of persons will pray for you and never do a thing for you. Yahashua says, how you treat the least, how you treat the ones that you think are insignificant, he said, that's how you treat me. Like Keon Henderson said, don't feed the poor. I don't even know who Keon Henderson is, to be honest. No offense, no shade. I don't know who that is. It sounds kind of wild, but I guess maybe there's a reason for it. I don't know. I don't know the context of it, but it sounds kind of wild to me, right? And by the way, you don't touch any man suddenly. So you do what Yah says. How you doing, Lisa? Thanks for being part of the community. So you're always going to do what Yah says. How you doing, Rico? He said, and then she leaves you with the children, and she goes and does what she wants. I mean, if that's the assumption, it's like when somebody gets, there's a lot of guys on the street or at a gas station, we travel across country right now. There's a lot of guys that we see across still, and a lot of women that are going to be like, hey, can I get $1? Can I get this? And I could do the same thing a lot of persons do, which is, and persons did the assumption about me, I was one of those persons who never looked down on the homeless. Well, I guess I did, but I never was like, oh, you deserve to be homeless. But I was one of those persons who used to be like, yeah, they probably did something to get there because that's what my parents taught me. And then I ended up homeless. And guess how I ended up homeless? I ended up homeless because I lost a job. And I couldn't get a job fast enough. And I couldn't take care of my babies because the government didn't allow fathers to take care of their babies, basically. So I had to give my babies to somebody to be in their house so that they could basically get a check taking care of them. And I had to, go on the streets. I still had to take care of them, do everything, but I couldn't live with them, or else they wouldn't be able to be, taken care of by the other person and stuff. And then when I did get a 1-bedroom apartment and everything, still couldn't get help and all that stuff. But I know what it is to be in that position and be a father. And I've only panhandled like 2 or 3 times my entire life, twice, really, my entire life. Both times when I was trying to get diapers for my daughter. One time I didn't have my daughter with me, and on purpose, I didn't want people to think like, oh, he's trying to use this girl, because that's what sometimes I would think. Oh, he's trying to use this girl, his baby, how shameful, blah blah. But like, no, like I didn't have money for diapers. At that point, I had an apartment, and had my babies in the bedroom, and I would sleep on the couch. Had three babies at the time, right? And fourth grade, first grade, and kindergarten. And the kindergartner was the one, but this is a few years. So I'm sorry, I'm a little ahead. But anyway, going back a little bit or whatever, a couple of years, a couple of years she skipped the grade, so a couple of years before, and still doing a little bit of the pull-ups and stuff like that, and I don't have any, so I'm panhandling. I'm just at the front of the entrance of a Congress Heights metro station in the Green Line in Washington D.C. Southeast, and I'm just asking, can anybody help me? I need money for my daughter's diapers. And persons gave me the same look that I probably gave a bunch of other persons, like, what's he gonna do? No, I needed help, right? I had to do it before. She was much younger then. Had to do it before, and she was on my arm then. I couldn't, I couldn't afford babysitter, blah blah this and that. I got to take her everywhere I go. So had her on my arm then. Little girl, still need diapers. Everybody help me. Everybody looking at you. So disgusting. He would use his daughter. And finally, both times somebody gave me like the whole thing, because back then it was like I could get diapers at the Family Dollar, I think it was, for like $5. Right? They were the ones that like exploded and fell apart and were all bushy and everything, but at least she had a diaper, right? So I had something at least for a few days until I could get a little bit of money from all my little side hustles I was doing at the time. So it's easy to be like, oh yeah, they're just, if you help this sister, she's going blah blah whatever. Once again, touch no man suddenly, be led. But don't, some of you can't even hear, not all, if the shoe fits weird, if it doesn't take it off, but some of us can't even hear the voice of Yah when it comes to helping somebody else and blessing somebody else, because we're so busy saying why we shouldn't bless them. And so I learned, I was giving, I'd say I've always been a pretty great giver. Like, I haven't really ever believed, no matter how little or how much I've had, that I have to hold on to something in order to get something, But that being said, yeah, we become self-righteous and stuff. But a lot of persons, it's like we said earlier, so many persons are so enlightened that they can't follow Yah. So many persons have so many reasons why you shouldn't help somebody that you never will. Right? And some of you, if we be honest, you like that with your own family. It could be your mother and your father out here needing help, like the religious leaders of old. And you'll find creative ways to say you ain't got it. But let some girl that you're trying to take out, or some dude that you're trying to impress, or your girlfriend you're trying to impress, or your girl's trip that you're taking, or you'll make payments to make sure that you can go to whatever, to Japan or whatever the case might be. But you can't take care of those in your community. I think sometimes we got to sit back and look at that. But anyways, that's about pitching our tent in the wrong place. So anyway, so Lot has pitched his tent in the wrong place. And the angels have been offered the same thing that Abraham offered. And they said, no, because of where you are, we can't be up in your house. We can't be around your family. We'd rather just stay in the street all day. So verse 3, and he pressed upon them greatly, and they turned unto him and entered into the house. So he pressed on them, no, please, 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 please. Then they said, okay, we see there's a desire there. So they actually went into the house. And he made them what? And he made them a feast. Okay. So he's doing the same stuff Abraham did, right? And he made them a feast. And did bake unleavened bread. It's our feast of unleavened bread, right? Bake unleavened bread. Now this is partially too because of, once again, it's a rush, right? But he baked unleavened bread, and they did eat. But before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house round, both old and young, all the people from every quarter, from every district, from every ward, if you will. They came from the four quarters, right? From the north, from the west, from the east, from the south, and from the northwest, southwest, east. Northwest, southwest, northeast, southeast. Right? They came from all the different places. And what did they do? They called unto Lot. They invited Lot. They called unto him and said unto him, where are the men which came to thee this night? Bring them out unto us, that we may know them. The word know means what? To be physically intimate with. So this is when persons say, you talk about Sodom and Gomorrah, and that's not the only focus sin and blah, blah, that they were doing. They were wicked in other places. They were. But come on, how wicked are you? And I want to show you something. Now, this might get me in trouble. It is what it is. Today, you know, I want all the smoke. So if we get whatever they be doing on TikTok, that they call it when they make it where we can't get anybody to even see us at all, they kind of do that anyways, but then they do even further where they be lying and saying that we selling products and all this stuff like that, and recreational things and all that stuff. It is what it is. Right, they be lying so much at this point, I don't even have the time to keep up with it. But I might genuinely get in trouble for this, and I could see why. Because real talk, I want you to see the correlation of things. Once again, we're not too far away from Noah, and we talk about this all the time. Just as in the days of Noah, so shall be. All right, Sodom and Gomorrah. Yes, it's not only homosexuality, but we're not going to act like, we're not going to pretend that there's no homosexuality. Right? We're not going to do that. We're not going to do this weird thing where it's like, oh yeah, we're just going to pretend that we should just go over that because there's somebody who might be someone who is so-called homosexual, LGBTQ+, whatever, listening. The word is the word. And prayerfully, because there's some of you who are listening right now, right? And some of you deal with that stuff anyway. So we might as well just be truthful about it. All right? Look, if the shoe fits, wear it. If it doesn't, take it off. All right, look. Before they went to sleep, it says everybody saw that there were these, they didn't know they were angels because they didn't have the same training and the same vision that Lot did. Even though Lot's in the wrong place, Lot has been raised up enough to where he can tell what an angel is, right? And it says that they called unto him and they said, hey, let them out that we may know them. We want to have relations. We want to have sexual relations with them. Right? So these guys are basically, these persons are coming up in the middle of the street to try and force upon somebody something. Or maybe assuming that since they came to Sodom, or came close to Sodom, that they must be persons who want some of this. Now, why is Holy Spirit pressing this upon you, Pastor Kofi? Where are we headed with this? I get it. We shouldn't be gay, right? Is that what you're trying to tell me? Can we move on? The thing is that once again, just as in the days of Noah, we're not that far removed from Noah in this scripture, right? I need you to recognize that what we're dealing with now is very similar. Have you ever noticed that if you do righteousness, including being straight, that has become attacked? Have you thought about that? I'm not just talking about the fact that there's emasculation is normalized, right? To the point to, right? Like, I believe that men need to stop being so misogynistic. I'm with you, sisters, on that. That being said, I think we must also recognize and be honest about the fact that emasculation is so normalized that now what's begun to happen is persons will say, if a guy doesn't want to be with a transgender female or a transgender female, in other words, it's a man who is acting like a female or a man who is trying to become one, whatever. If you're not attracted to a man dressed like a woman, they say you're homophobic. Right? Or you're wicked. You're sinful. How could you not love somebody that the Most High created? But you don't even love who the Most High created because you don't want to be who He created. You know, but that stuff has been put out for years now. I'm not. This isn't new. This has been out at least for 10, 15 years, where persons, where you'll see stories of a guy is at a club or whatever. He's dancing with what he perceives to be. Sorry, he's dancing with what he perceives to be a woman, and then he finds out that it's a transgender woman, and then the transgender woman, doesn't say anything. They start to get intimate or whatever, and then he touches something or whatever, and then persons go. Now, I don't believe. Let me be quick to say this part. I do not believe that means you should kill this person. However, can I keep it a buck with you? Some, if any dude, if a guy who I know is straight messes around with me, even playing around, he might have to get the whooping of his life. So if you try to trick a man into doing that and he lays down with you, I'm just telling you, be ready. Men should know this, by the way, right? These are transgender women. So these transgender women who are actually men, right? They were raised as men. They know how this works. They know how it operates. They know the vitriol that comes with the decision that they made. You know what time it is. You know what time it is, right? Like, if there was a woman out there, I don't know if women, I mean, I've seen some women that be looking masculine enough and go through a lot of stuff to where you got to look twice, right? For whatever reason, I see it easier on the women than the men. I guess because women are easier for me to catch. Because if there's something that catches my eye, I would be looking for certain things for a woman or whatever. So when she tries to act like a man, I catch that a lot easier. I don't really pay attention to it because I'm not in the dating game anyways. I'm not even in the looking for a wife game. I have the most beautiful wife. But I'm just saying, like, I would assume with women the same thing. If there was some woman that like got with you, was able to trick you into whatever, and then you found out that this woman was not a man but was a woman, I'm pretty sure she can get a whole bunch of she gonna get at least a 7 piece and a couple biscuits. But the way the world works, it's like, hey, you should be what we want you to be. We should be able to do whatever, to the point to where I'm gonna just call it out what it is. I hope this part don't get us in too much trouble, but I'm gonna go ahead and use the word, right? This word, you said she get hands all day, right? I'm gonna just go ahead and if I get in trouble for this, so be it. Look, real talk, fam. Um, I am homophobic because I'm afraid of homosexuality. The Bible says that I should do things in fear, with fear and trembling. I'm afraid of it because I know what comes with it. I'm afraid of P. Diddy. I don't care how much smaller he is than that. He got too many bodies. I'm gonna just tell you the truth. You can call me whatever. Call me a coward. I'm not saying I wouldn't go out swinging. I'm not saying this. I'm not saying I will go out. I'm just telling you I'm afraid of the brother. If I ever saw P. Diddy in the alleyway, I'm make sure I'm prayed up and I'm taking my machete out. And we just gonna have to, you know what I'm saying? I'm not giving him an opportunity. I'm going to jail if I see P. Diddy. I'm afraid. Somebody say you're afraid. No, fear and trembling. Sometimes I got to be worried about certain things. I've never once in my life. I'm afraid. I'm just saying, I'm afraid. I'm not trying to, I'm not saying I'm afraid of you as a person. Come on. Everybody got persons in their family. Look, our diaspora. Can we keep it a buck? With all the stuff, especially that be happening, unfortunately, the babies, trigger warning and stuff like that, people messing with stuff. We know a whole bunch of persons in our families where we know that they bi or that they DL or that they straight out gay, blah, blah. Like, you hear what I'm saying? Those aren't, those aren't, those aren't things that like we can't be around persons. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is as far as the act, because I know the act is something is against Yah's will, right? Yeah, or the uncle you just don't talk about, the uncle that you don't talk about, but then if your children get left over the uncle's house, everybody's afraid for their life or the child's life and is running for the child, you know, like. But this whole weird thing that y'all are doing is basically, I'm just use the word, it's it's rape. Like, if somebody is not attracted to somebody, for you to say, to try and force them into it or use some kind of weird vow, whatever, to try and get them to be like, you should, to scare them or to peer pressure them into something, something's wrong with you, right? Something's wrong with you. Sorry, hold on one second. I have to respond to this. So, excuse me, y'all. I had to respond to something. I'm sorry. Somebody shot me a text about something. So, but these are the things that we have to recognize and realize. These are things that we have to recognize and realize. These are the things that we have to see that is really going on. That there's a lot of, how can we say it? There's a lot of stuff that's being pushed. We're not really going to get that far. I'm almost finished for today. I'm not even going to go that much further. Short message for today. We'll come back to this, but I wanted to just kind of go into this because there's a lot of stuff that's forced upon us as a diaspora, forced upon us as the people of Yah, forced upon us as far as believers, and we're supposed to just pretend like it's okay because we want to fit in. That's why you're supposed to be peculiar, right? You're supposed to be peculiar. There's some stuff that they're going to try to tell you over and over again and make it okay, and it's not okay. It's all right if your children. No, it's not. No. It's really all right if your children. It's all right if your children, show up for Halloween and they dress up. It's just one time, and it's not like they're going trick or treating, and it's not like they have to believe that there's actually ghouls and God. No, it's not. It's okay, if he says they them. He doesn't have to be a he him, or she doesn't have to be a she her. She just state no, it's not. It's not, right? And just like back then, like they have you believing, hey, live next to Sodom, live next to the big city, go into this, wear this, be a guy and wear the dress. It's only the movies, man. What's really interesting to me, and all of them end up in some way, shape, or form finally showing how hypocritical they are because you can't help it. What's really always interesting to me in Hollywood, man? You know what? It's just a dress. Or you get these guys that are like, they're extreme devout Christians or whatever, right? Which we know about Christianity, but you know what I'm saying. They're devout Christians and they believe in the Bible. They believe in the Most High, this and that, or whatever. But it's like, well, how you believe in the Bible like that? But then I keep seeing you in these movies. I'm not gonna act like I don't enjoy them, to be, which speaks something to me, speaks something about me too. If I'll be honest, but right. So I'll keep it a buck with that. That being said, how you gonna be this devout man of Yah, but every movie I see you and you cussing everybody out? Well, he's playing a character. That it means he has to get out of character, right? Like we have some really weird things that we just allow to happen, and we want these persons. We, especially us as black folk, we want to be Greek so bad that we'll just let Greco-Roman stuff happen. They're like, do you know in your culture there was no such thing as drama? Like you guys talk about drama as far as drama is what they talked about as far as it's a Greek word that they use them for plays. So when you see a play, we didn't do plays. I know everybody likes play. Everybody wants to be in plays. Everybody wants to be a playwright. I've been in plays myself. I've been in musicals, stuff like that. I get it, right? I've written music for stuff, but I'm trying to tell you, like, we're not supposed to be. Like that's something that like we like drama because we want to, and now we fight. Like they don't put enough black persons in this drama. They don't put enough black women in this. When they're gonna have the dramas for us, and it's like, okay, I get what you're trying to do, but dramas is not our thing. Dramas is not our thing. But we want so bad to be in it. We want to be part of the world, and we think that's where the reward comes from. The reward is being there. We need Denzel to be this. Denzel is out here like saying messages that are wrong. Denzel Washington said when he got his Oscar for Glory, Denzel Washington talked about how he literally went into a room and prayed up and like basically got all the spirits in the room to come inside of him. Then he said he was in control of him. No, that's demon possession, Denzel. Then he comes out later on when him and Tyler Perry on his stuff too. My greatness, we make excuses for that, brother. But him and Tyler Perry grabbed Will Smith after he had slapped the taste out of Chris Rock's mouth, talking about some, you know, where the devil only comes for you when you're at your highest heights. Man, the devil didn't slap Chris Rock. Will Smith did. And now Will Smith, who was always the guy on there, never curse, you know. I don't ever, you know, what was the one of the lyrics he had? You know, what is it? I hate take a cigar, I bite it, not just for the look, but just for the look. I don't light it, something like that. And then, right when getting jiggy with it or whatever song that was, and now this man is out here cussing and fussing and all this stuff because he needs to make sure that he's just going to be the real Will Smith or whatever, and forget all y'all this and that. You could have been the real Will Smith long time ago and just admitted that you and Jada was never in a relationship that was just y'all two, and that you into some demonic stuff, right? And you can tell the truth about like you could explain to everybody how you got a 27, 25, maybe 22. I don't care if he's 17, but a 27-year-old man in the bed with your 12-year-old daughter. He's spilling double truth to that. I'm just saying, we're still dealing with this stuff where persons want to be up under Sodom so bad that they won't tell the truth, that they won't be like, this is wrong, that nobody's going to say, you know, because we want to be, you know, all these social media cats. And look, I guess I'm just not big enough, so I'm not going to pretend like I'm big enough where I know these persons, but all these social media cats, you'd be like, why won't anybody say anything? Because they caping up. They want somebody else to bring them up. So there's certain, you know, no offense, I still watch what's his face, but he, you know, he doesn't stop trying to be, you know, spiritually inclined the way that y'all wants him to be a long time ago. But Kevin Fredericks and Sister Michelle Fredericks, nice couple. I still watch some of their stuff, but they stopped a long time ago. They're not gonna say anything about Will Smith. You know why? You're not gonna say anything about Will because you want to be in the picture with Will, right? It's become a thing in your life where people, even though you and Will aren't close, the fact that you always are keeping up from no matter what makes you think, right? It's like when Drake and Kendrick were going through it. And I'm not saying that either one is righteous because neither one is. That being said, when Kendrick was saying some stuff that was more about our actual people and Drake was saying some stuff that clearly was not, and he clearly is not on the level of Kendrick, persons were still going to defend Drake no matter what. Why? Because Drake might come through and might put some money out there. He might make you rich. And so you don't say certain things. You don't call certain things out. Yeah, TDJs probably might not preach this. There was a time where he would have preached closer to this, but you get to a certain level. This is why they call it. This is why there's a book called $1 Million Slave. How you doing, Sister Austin? This is why there's a book called $1 Million Slave. Because a lot of y'all think that these persons are more free the more money they make. No, you get up to certain levels. It depends on how you got up in there, right? This is how Terrence Howard was able to come out recently and speak openly about the fact that how P. Diddy tried to get him in his little group and how he said no, because one thing you can never get back is your man card. And he could talk freely about it because he, even though he ruffled feathers and they talked bad about him on the way out and try to dismiss him and make his character look bad or whatever, talk about he was a jerk, but it's because he wasn't doing certain things in Hollywood, everybody else was, and he was able to get to the precipice, but they weren't going to let him pass a certain point, which really for him was okay. He was trying to make enough money to just focus on the stuff he focuses on now. Whether you agree with the stuff he says mathematically, etc. or not, that's what and scientifically, that's what he was trying to do. By the way, a lot of persons don't know, he's not low-key, he's high-key a genius. Even if you disagree with him, his theories are something that you can't deny have some kind of weight, right? But he didn't have to go the route a lot of persons did because a lot of men went on the casting couch too. So he didn't have to give up certain things, regardless of how you feel about Brother Terrence, right? He didn't have to give up what a lot of brothers gave up. So he can talk more freely, right? So, but a lot of persons don't realize, yeah, there are $1 million slaves. right? Even LeBron James, who's now a billionaire, right, made billions long time ago, like years ago. When people say he's worth a billion, he's made over $1 billion in his life a long time ago. That being said, when you look at LeBron James, if you recall, was it 2 years ago, 3 years ago, they were in China and they were doing some kind of game over there, trying to be ambassadors. And Daryl Morey, who you can feel however you feel about him as an executive, but he's an executive now with the Philadelphia 76ers. And he made a point to say, like, hey, what China's doing to some of these other countries or some of these places that should be their own countries is bad. And it is. They asked LeBron James what he had to say about it. He said, I think Daryl Morey should shut up. LeBron James was sending a message like, hey, Daryl Morey, you about to mess up the bag. He was letting them know, don't talk about somebody needing to get out of oppression. We're not over here for that. We over here to smile, laugh, and take pictures and say how great China is. I'm trying to come back. And when I come back, I'm trying to make more money. They love me over here. They love the NBA over here. They love basketball over here. Don't mess it up. That's what he told them when he said, I think Daryl Morey should shut up. That's $1 billion slave. Michael Jordan. Hey, well, what do you think about the things that the right is doing to the left, or that basically the white is doing to the black, was the question asked in the 80s. He said, hey, Republicans buy shoes too. That's $1 billion slave. Yeah, he might have more money and he can eat at different places than you do, but he knows that if he steps bad, he's not in charge. That's why they got this other black billionaire that's been going around and telling y'all that, hey, the reason why you guys are poor is because, like he said, there's no such thing as white or black. There's only green when you get to a certain level. He was like telling Shannon Sharp and Chado Jacinko, yeah, we're green over here. So everybody knows that, and was telling persons, yeah, you need to get out of this thing where you're trying your best to do this or whatever. You got to realize that the only reason why you're not rich is because you're not doing what, and there's some truth to that. There's some things that black, white, whatever you could do, and you would still be able to grow your money. But that being said, this dude is $1 billion slave. When he sits there and tells us that nothing has happened in the country, and the only reason why we're not doing this is because the black people are okay with being in oppression. You sound just like the chattel slave master. And we keep allowing it to happen because we're like, well, it's Michael Jordan, it's LeBron James, it's Kevin Durant, it's this one, it's that. No, it's not. Right? They're slaves. And they're being taught, by the way, to not even give their money back to you. Right? They're being taught to not give their money back to you. Right? You think LeBron James' money is being spent to make sure that your people will eat? LeBron James makes so much money that if he wanted to, he could literally put a trust together and make sure that the money that he uses is only used to make sure that food for his community is grown for the next 200 years. And he wouldn't miss it. Like, if he's a billionaire, he could do that for $1 million. He could set something with $1 million in motion to ensure that our people eat for about 200 years. And not just him, by the way. I'm just calling out names that we're familiar with. Not just him. There's soccer players that make as much as LeBron James. But they're not taught to do this. They're not sewing back into you. They're not taught to. We're not as important. We're trying to be, even LeBron is trying to be like somebody he's seen or somebody who's teaching him, and we're not teaching each other. So, be careful where you pitch your tent. Be careful, lot. Don't pitch your tent in the wrong place to where then when destruction comes, you're in the wrong place. But I'm going to leave it here today. That's all that I have time for today. I thank you all, Tada, Maisa Pahe, for being on. Appreciate you all. I will see you all this evening, 8 p.m. New York time. And then once this evening is finished, prayerfully, I'll be able to, once this evening is finished, prayerfully, I'll be able to see you. Well, I guess I'll be off. So I'll see you guys Thursday Rise in Prayer, and then we'll get back to Barashayat. So prayerfully, I'll see you this evening. Hopefully you do well. Patreon family, keep looking for stuff on Patreon. If you missed Passover, remember we have a makeup Passover on April 20 or April 19th. If you are doing Feast of Unleavened Bread and you're going to come to the Mega Passover, we're asking that you don't eat leaven again until April 20th. If you are looking at doing a Mega Passover, or I'm sorry, if you're not doing a Mega Passover with us, then you can go ahead and start eating leaven again on April the 19th. But thank you all. We're praying for safe travels. We're praying for safe travels for you all. I think there's some of you that are still at the Grand Canyon or something like that, possibly. So be safe out here. I know there's some of you on your way to the airport. We pretty much got word that everybody has made it back to their destination safely for the most part. And I know there's some that are about to start traveling to get to their destination. So praying for safe travel for all of you. Thank you so much for being on with us again. I apologize once again for my tardiness. We had to move the vehicle. We had a sweet spot. We just had to move though. So we got another sweet spot turned out. So thank you all for being on. Appreciate, love you all. Thank you again for your time. And until next time, remember that you are loved, you are necessary, you're majestic, you're fearfully, wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shalom, family. Take care. Peace.